Good morning, it's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and today we are going to drive and talk. Stick around till the end of the video. The rest of the video will be done inside, and I'm going to be showing you exact methods. So as we drive today, drive and talk, you know I won't be looking at the camera as always. I will be looking at the road. But today we're going to talk about intuition. So intuition in healing is very important. It's one of the keys actually to healing yourself, because a lot of times we get caught up. We get really caught up when we're healing ourselves in healing protocols. And that could be anything from diet to supplements to really in-depth healing protocols, you know, and very expensive things, depending on how sick you are, how chronic it is, how desperate you are, and how long it's been going on. You know that you will try almost anything at points. And some of it can be dangerous, some of it can be super expensive, and some of it can be harmful, right? So we need to have a way, as we're healing, that we can turn inward, turn into our intuition, use our inner voice, our inner knowing to find out what's right for us when it's on the road of healing. As you know, I'm all into self-healing, any chronic illness or chronic disease, and I do have a new course coming up, so if you haven't already, please check that out. But here's the thing. We're going to learn today about what our inner voice is, how to use it for healing, and then I want to show you some methods of muscle testing. Now, you may be familiar with muscle testing, but stick with me to the very end, because I'm going to bring this all around and show you exactly how to use it, and there's various different types of muscle testing too, and how we can use that in combination with our inner voice, our inner wisdom, and our intuition, our inner knowing, to come up with the answers, right? So that we're not hurting ourselves, going down the wrong road, or making things worse, which is ultimately what we don't want to do when we are healing. All right, so let's get into it. Intuition, what is it? It's an inner knowing. Intuition is an inner knowing. It's like when your brain isn't necessary to think, when we don't need to put thoughts together, and we have a sense or a feeling or just an inner knowing that something is true without having to prove it, right? With facts or thoughts or science or anything. We rely on this inner knowing. This inner knowing is several things, okay? And there's a lot of confusion about inner knowing in the self-help world, I actually find, and about intuition. I take a slightly different approach here. A lot of people think intuition is your emotions. It's connected to your heart, not your mind. And basically, when you're listening to your intuition, a lot of people think you want to turn off your mind, turn into only your emotions or your feelings, so that your mind isn't clouding that out. Now, I take a slightly different approach to that. I do think it's important that the mind, body, and soul all be in alignment when it comes to anything, especially as important as healing. So I take the approach where we use all of these. We use our thoughts, we use our emotions, and we use those things like our gut feelings. Okay, so let me tell you the difference between them. Your thoughts are when you start to get thoughts going round in circle in your mind. Let me give you an example, okay? So say you get into a major car crash, okay? You're driving down a certain road, you get into a head-on collision, you're fine. Say by some miracle you're fine, okay? Now the next time you get in the car and you start to feel that anxiety and that heartbeat racing when you're driving down the same road and you're feeling those same feelings, is that intuition speaking to you? Is that your thoughts? Are those your emotions? And do we trust those, right? Because that's basically just not really this, what some people will call, or what spiritual teachers would call, true intuition. That is not true intuition in that point. That is more like your fight or flight system being activated and causing a knowing, a feeling, a sensation, an emotion that causes thoughts to spin. And then you have these thoughts going, I shouldn't be driving on this road. This is scary. What if I get into a car accident? Oh my gosh, I think that truck is coming too close to me. I better pull over. I better slow down, right? So it does, and it can get confusing, but I do think it's important that even though that would be a thought rather than a true emotion or a feeling, it's using all three, okay? Let me give you an example of a feeling or a sense. You may be sitting there, you may be just, minding your own business, going on with your day, and your phone pings. And you just have this gut inner knowing, it's an inner feeling, and it kind of, your stomach sinks, and maybe you just know like that is something important and maybe not very good. I know that someone's just died or someone's in serious trouble, and you look at your phone and that's what's come out. That's sort of like an intuition. A lot of people would say that's a gut feeling, right? A gut feeling. It's a sense that you got. It was an actual feeling located in your body. Maybe your stomach fluttered or dropped and you got an actual feeling and sensation in your body. And the other thing that we can do here is we can look at our intuition through emotions, right? Through what we feel. You're in the car and your thoughts are racing about how it's not a great idea. That could still be, maybe you're having emotions. Maybe you feel sick to your stomach, or you feel like you're going to vomit and you're having anxiety, you're having fear. And fear is the strongest. It's not the thoughts that are going, it's the actual fear that you're feeling. Okay, in that case, that's your emotions trying to connect with you. So I do think that when we are talking about our inner intuition and our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, our inner voice, right, the higher power, your soul talking to you, I think that we need to listen to all three of those. We don't want to shut off thoughts. We don't want to shut off emotions, and we don't want to just rely on those or ignore those gut instincts and those feelings that come out of nowhere and just hit us somewhere in the body or in the gut, or your stomach drops out of nowhere for no reason. These are all your intuitive knowings coming through in a different way. So as we know, some of them are coming through conscious thought, right, and conscious emotion and conscious feelings in our body. And some are coming through subconsciously. We're having subconscious patterns and thinking running in the background. We're having subconscious emotions that have been pushed down and suppressed and repressed and are being triggered and therefore come forth seemingly out of nowhere, but they're there for a reason. And then we have these gut instincts, which a lot of us turn off, turn away from, because they don't make sense. There's nothing connected to them. There might be not an emotion or a thought connected to it, and it is sort of a feeling that comes out of nowhere. But it's important that we look at all three, especially for healing the body, and that we don't rely on one more than the other. So if you were going to be relying on your mind, you'd be relying on all these thoughts, and you'd be turning off those gut feelings that you're getting and those emotions that you're getting and that your heart is trying to send you, right? Or you may be doing the opposite, and you may be just listening to those gut instincts, right? Just your emotions, and turning off all your thoughts. Both are not ideal for really getting to the bottom of your intuition and your inner knowing, in my opinion. It's much more wise to listen to all of them, because they are all pointing you. They're pointing you to your inner knowing from a different direction. Your thoughts are trying to point you in the direction of an inner knowing. Your emotions are trying to point you in the direction of an inner knowing and an inner wisdom. And your gut feelings, body sensations, all these different feelings are also trying to point you into the direction of an inner knowing. And they usually come with a good or a bad. Sometimes we don't get more than that, especially when we're talking about emotions or gut feelings. We know, is this a good gut feeling or a bad gut feeling. We know, is this a good emotion or a bad emotion? With thoughts, it's much easier to tell because language is attached to it, and that's why thoughts are relied upon way more often, and that's why we need to, a lot of people say, turn off your thoughts when you're tapping into your intuition, because thoughts are where we place most of our value and that we listen to most. But if you're not going to be turning off the other two, then I wouldn't say to turn off your thoughts either, because they're equally valid, but you want to give all their voice, and that is the key. If you're only listening to your thoughts, you must stop, tap in, and ask, what is your emotion around this? Really get clear on what your emotion now is telling you. And then, what are my feelings telling me? What are the sensations and the gut feelings in my body telling me about this? And then we listen to that too. So in any situation, no matter how the information or how the inner knowing comes to you, whether it's through thinking or emotions or feelings, we want to stop and consider the other two. So this is where you get very quiet. So listening to your inner wisdom and your inner knowing, it's very important to get quiet and to listen to all three. Listen to the information coming to you from your mind, all that chatter. What is it trying to tell you, to warn you about, or to move you toward? What is it trying to move you toward, and what is it trying to move you away from? Is this good or bad? Same with your emotions. We want to stop and tap into that as well. And then we want to stop and tap into our feelings. Again, is this a good feeling? Is it a bad feeling? What's it trying to turn us toward? Or what's it trying to warn us against? Okay, so we are really going to listen to all three, tap into them, and give them the time that they need. This could be maybe 10 minutes with each one. That is a 30-minute meditation session where you're turning everything else off. You're giving your thoughts time to speak, then you're giving your emotions time to speak, and then you're giving your feelings time to speak, right? Your body time to speak. And it's very important that we do this. This is really key. Okay, so we're almost where we're going to be, and then I'm going to be shutting off this video very soon when I get home, when I am done this trip, and we're going to be looking at muscle testing. I'm going to explain this a little bit. So when I was caught up in healing, one of the ways that people used and read energy in the body and tried to gain an inner wisdom or an inner knowing from is through your muscles. And kinesiology proves that this is a true method that you can test people for. And it seems a little out there, it seems a little woo-woo, and it seems a little, sometimes can even be expensive, and it doesn't work every single time. So it can be a little confusing, but that's why we want to test what we've just received through our thoughts, through our emotions, and through our feelings. They may be saying different things, or they may all be clear and they may be the same thing. If they're all coming through loud and clear in the same direction, and you're getting the same inner knowing from all three of them, then you probably don't need to move on to muscle testing. But when our thoughts are telling us something different from our emotions, or when our gut feelings are telling us something different from our emotions or our thoughts, then we get very confused. What is the right answer, and how do we tune into the right thing? Because we want to heal ourselves. We want the right supplements. We want the right protocols, and we want to do the right things, right? That work for our body. So when we sit and we allow all these messages to come through, and we really ask questions of the other ones that aren't speaking, and then we get confusing or conflicting answers. The reason for that is not because you don't know the answer and because the answer can't be known, but it's because the different parts of you are at war within yourself. Your mind may be conflicted with your heart. Your conscious conflicted with your subconscious. They're warring because they are trying to protect each other. And for those of you who haven't seen my videos on fragmentation and or on parts work, I really urge you to go check those out, because this is when the body's at war with itself, and this is when your intuition gets confused. There's inner work that needs to be done so that you can align mind, body, and soul, right? Thoughts, emotions, and feelings. But when they're in conflict, that doesn't mean that there isn't an answer there. It means that those parts are saying different things for different reasons. And again, you can watch that video to find out more. But when we don't have the time or the patience or the energy to do the inner work, but we do want the answer. We want the answer, but we need it more immediately. So we can't go doing all the inner work to align our mind, body, and our heart, and to do the parts work and the fragmentation work necessary. Then I find it's key, and it can be really useful to turn to something like muscle testing. You won't get accurate results. If the person testing you is calibrating lower than 200, you won't get accurate results. If there's any confusion or misalignment between you and the person, or mistrust between you and the person doing it, you can also get misalignment, right? This is a neutral process, this muscle testing. But if you can't be neutral with the person doing it, or if you can't be neutral with your feelings about what's happening, or if you're calibrating at such a low energy, below 200, then it's not really going to work. Well, I found that might be true with the various methods of muscle testing, including the arm muscle testing, including the finger muscle testing, which are popular and particularly having a third party in between. But the pendulum method is just you, and I find that even if you're calibrating at a very low vibration, even the lowest that you could possibly be doing, which I was the night that I tried it, I still got an answer and I still cut through it. So I believe that it can work even when you're vibrating at the lowest vibrations, okay? Especially in combination with you searching your soul and the other parts of your body to hear what they have to say. The truth is, our energy doesn't lie. Sometimes our thoughts lie. Sometimes our emotions aren't true. Sometimes our gut feelings are wrong. But the energy, the vibration of our body, the actual energy field around it, right, whether it's good or bad, that is true. So when we investigate and when we ask ourselves to use our mind, to use our heart and our inner feelings, right, when we're using those techniques, sometimes they can be conflicting and sometimes they can be wrong. And that's why when you test your muscles at the end, when you use the muscle testing technique, you're really getting at the energy. And so therefore you can wrap it all up in a bow and you can really find out. You can cut through it. You can say, is my mind lying to me? Are my emotions lying to me? Or is my gut feeling lying to me? If they're not in alignment, you want to find out what is the truth. When you use muscle testing, you can get to the truth because now you're asking the energy field. You're asking the energy field to answer, right? If you're in alignment. And then we can really find out. We can find out whether it was our mind, our gut feeling, or our emotions that were right. And when one of them was wrong, or when one of them, the one that was, say it was your thoughts that were not pointing you in the right direction, then you can go back afterward, after you've made the decision, and you can say, okay, my thoughts are not in alignment and they're usually the ones steering me wrong. Let's do the emotional work on that. Let's do the fragmentation work. Let's do, the parts work that needs to be done so that I'm in alignment again and that I can hear my own messages and hear my own intuition loudly and clearly. Same thing if your mind is telling you something, but your gut or your feelings or your emotions are the one that aren't telling the truth or that aren't really in alignment with your energy. Then you can go back and do the inner work and heal the subconscious pattern or the grief or the pain or the emotion or whatever it is that's throwing you off track. So it's just a good way. It's a good checks and balance system, because sometimes it's hard to know what to believe when our mind, our body, and soul are in conflict with each other, and we cannot Our inner knowing is not coming through the way it should be. Okay, so the first method that we're gonna do is we're going to take someone's arm, okay? You can do it a couple different ways. You can have them bend their arm here, and you're gonna push down and say, can you resist, resist, okay, resist. Or we can take the arm this way, and I can push down this way and say, resist, resist. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna say, let's just feel your resistance. Great, so you just wanna make sure that it's a nice solid resistance first. And then you're going to say, okay, so I want you to resist at that same level, just for everything, okay? So I'm gonna say, okay, so say yes,
Yes.
and give me the same resistance.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, yes?
Yes.
Just say, my name is Dave.
My name is Dave.
I'm however old you are, say it.
I'm 48 years old.
Okay, now I want you to say, my name is Dave.
My name is Dave.
And I'm 2 years old.
I'm 2 years old.
Now did we notice how that went down? My name is Dave.
My name is Dave.
And I have 2 children.
I have 2 children.
And I live in California.
I live in California.
And did we notice how it went down when he was lying? Okay, so it's almost like a lie detector. It's just an energy, okay? Now we're gonna show you a second method. Give me your fingers like this. We're gonna make a ring. Okay, so you can do this as a self method, or you can have somebody else do it. And you're just trying to pull a finger through this. So make just a nice strong, yes, a nice strong, not too strong. You still wanna be able to get my fingers through. A nice solid, okay? My name is Dave.
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 Okay, and my name is Joe.
My name is Joe.
Do you see how weak that was? That pulled it through really quickly, okay? Strong if it's a yes, no if it, weak if it's a no. Okay, so apples are good for me.
Apples are good for me.
Okay, take it out. I'm gonna drink this hand sanitizer.
I'm gonna drink this hand sanitizer.
So it's really weak. It went through really fast. So that's the essence of muscle testing, is just you get a strong response or a weak response. And of course I didn't do a really great method showing it here because this is my husband. He had no idea what he was gonna do when he sat down in the chair. But you can also use it for other parts of your body. Like if he had a pain somewhere, if he feels good about a certain part of his body, you could touch a certain part of his body. If he feels good about his arms, like, so I would touch his arm and we would say, my arm feels good.
My arm feels good.
My arm feels good.
My arm feels good.
So then that would be an indication that it feels good. So I know sometimes he has a weak lower back. We'll see how it feels today. So I put his hand on his back and I would ask him just to imagine, feel into that part of his back. I have a strong back.
I have a strong back.
And so we're getting a weirdly weak response. Maybe he doesn't believe that in his mind, okay? So I'm gonna show you one more method. So this is the last method, and this is a method that you do by yourself. I find this is the most accurate. So he has no idea what he's doing. We are just gonna do this together. So you are gonna be like a human pendulum. So we're gonna go front and backwards and tip backwards. Stand out from the bench just a little bit more. So just kind of tip forward a bit and tip backward a bit, okay? Now we're going to go yes. When something's true, we're coming forward. When something's not true, we're going backward. Okay, so we're gonna test this, okay? So you always wanna test it with yourself first. So you say, my name is David.
My name is David.
He's gonna fall forward, okay? My name is Frank.
My name is Frank.
Okay, so he's going to end up kind of falling backwards there, okay? So I have 2 children.
I have 2 children.
He's gonna go forward, okay? Then you just kind of wait for the answer. So I hate my children.
I hate my children.
And he instinctively has a back motion, okay? So I love my children.
I love my children.
So we're gonna find that energy going forward. So this is a method that you can use. We're gonna try this again really quickly with some of the things. Put the vitamin C in your hand. Vitamin C is okay for me to take.
Vitamin C is okay for me to take.
So we're gonna get a yes response on that. So you wanna ask it a specific question. Drinking this bottle of rubbing alcohol is okay.
Drinking this bottle of rubbing alcohol is okay.
You really concentrate on it. Ask the question in whatever way feels common to you.
Drinking this bottle of rubbing alcohol is okay.
Okay, so what did you feel there?
Let's go back a little bit.
You were going back a little bit? So we're gonna get that, okay? So we're gonna get the going forward and going back, but you'll get really good at this as you ask the questions. And I'm sure you felt a response coming forward, and on some of them you felt a response going back. You can feel that. So as you could see with that video, my husband had no idea. I just asked him to sit down. I was gonna do something very quickly. So he had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea that we were gonna be muscle testing. He's never been muscle tested. He doesn't know what muscle testing is. He's very skeptical about a lot of things. So as you can see, if you're unsure, uneasy, skeptical, those are going to be vibrations that could make it not work. And that's the position that I was in when I didn't believe anything that was happening, and it made everything more confusing. But when you really get good at being your own pendulum or doing your own muscle testing, you can do it on yourself. You can't do the arm one, but you certainly can do this one. But I like the pendulum because you can really get a good reading, and you just center yourself and you ask the question and you go forward for yes and back for no, and you can really start to get some insightful answers. So I really want you to give this a try. And don't be scared in the beginning if you're not getting a reading, you're confused, you're thinking it's silly, you're not sure how it's supposed to work, you're getting mixed messages. If you practice it a few times, like a few days in a row, over and over, and you're really clear, first of all, about the things that you're asking, you really want to get a baseline for going forward for true statements and going backward for negative statements, and just sort of train your body what that feels like with things that you already know to be true or false. Then that's when you can start asking other questions and you're going to see the response. But at first, you're just training your body what it's supposed to be doing, and that does take a little bit of training. Once it knows, then you can test it on more important questions, right? You can get progressively harder with it and see what's happening. And when you're in your sessions, when you're meditating, when you're using thoughts, when you're using emotions, when you're using your feelings, you can see, hey, did that muscle test work? Was that accurate? And the more you do it, the more accurate you will get. So all of this is to say that your intuition is important. And when you're suffering with chronic illness, when you're suffering with chronic disease, when you're sick, when you're vibrating at a very low energy, when it's very hard to hear your clear inner wisdom and your inner knowing speaking to you, you really must take all the methods that I described in this video and use them together, so not just the muscle testing, not just the meditating, not just the looking within, right? Not just spending time with it, but all of it. Because the whole point is you're trying to hear everything that your inner knowing has to tell you. And oftentimes we forget it, we ignore it, we disown it, we push it away. We don't listen to it when we're sick. We think people know better. We give our power away. And it truly is time to look inside and learn how to hear your inner knowing. Learn how to use your intuition. It is guiding you. It has messages for you. And we need to learn to look within and hear what they are. Not always will it be right, but it's information that we need. Because when we finally make a decision, when we finally take a supplement or do a protocol or make a decision that is going to be something impactful in our lives, we want to make sure that we're aligned, body, mind, and spirit. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I will see you in the next one.